Happy Wino Wednesday, everybody!
Woo!
How are you, RobbyG?
It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock.
I'm
Somewhere.
good.
That somewhere's here.
Somewhere San Diego, baby.
Happy when that is, yeah.
Happy Wino Wednesday.
Yeah, Wino Wednesday. I am Gina, your hostess.
I'm RobbyG, the host with the second most. I bow to you.
Suck it up.
That's right, pretty much.
I love it, I love it. Well, welcome to Wino Wednesday. What number did we decide it is? It's on the page.
Number 20.
20 varietals of wine we have featured over this past year. And can I have another little milestone?
Let's hear it.
This, to this day, almost to this day, is the 1-year anniversary of our very first virtual tasting.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Congratulations
That's
to
nuts.
us and to everyone who's made it through this.
Made it through and drank at least 20 bottles of wine and beer and martinis.
Has anyone joined us for every Wino Wednesday? I think some of you have.
I bet you somebody has. And we'll have to look that up.
And we'll have to
whoever
do a
has
prize.
is getting a prize.
Mhm.
We're going to look that up. We'll have the statistics next time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to drink wine and eat cheese, but we're going to figure out another prize.
Another reward.
Yeah.
Like that's not good enough, but it's very, very good. So welcome today. We are featuring Merlot, the most misunderstood, maligned varietal.
Well, since 2004.
Since 2004, and the advent of the movie, we all know,
Sideways.
Sideways sent Merlot sales sideways.
They called it the sideways effect.
That it really, truly is true.
Really, there are studies about it.
Right? And poor Merlot. Like, why did they pick Merlot? What if it was, Sauvignon Blanc? Or, I mean, it could have been anybody.
Do you want to get into this now, or do you want to hold off a second?
I guess we can hold on. It's like, I just wish you have a real toast first to us and to all of you out there. Welcome to Merlot Wino Wednesday.
Cheers, everybody.
We'll start. Jason says good evening to you, Jason, first to comment.
Jason.
Yes.
Welcome, my friend.
Welcome to Night of Merlot.
Hopefully you have a bottle and you're getting a night off from cooking and just eating and drinking with us today.
That's right, yeah. Ooh, I'm liking it, Rob.
Is it
Merlot. It is delish.
So it's not so bad, Merlot.
Merlot's not so bad. And I'm going to swear, I'm sure it's going to pop out, just like in the movie at some point during the thing today. But I will drink a Merlot.
Okay.
I'm a proud Merlot drinker. And I like this one.
It's, in the movie, it's not mentioned very, very frequently in the movie. It's like, one little tiny scene.
Oh, yeah, like it's a minute-long scene.
It's
and
it
destroys Merlot.
Yeah, it's more him waxing poetic about Pinot Noir.
Yes.
And that's really what more the effect of the movie was that Pinot Noir sales went up 60%.
Yes.
Over the next few
60?
years. 60.
Crazy.
60%. In Merlot sales didn't really go, they went down a little bit right afterwards.
Okay, I'm surprised.
But they came right back. It was more like the way people thought of, a lot of people thought of Merlot as being sort of second class, and people use some of the words that he uses, flabby or characterless.
Flabby?
He uses those words describing other wines, by the way.
Okay.
Cab Franc, he kind of poo-poos in the movie as well.
But we can know about a relation. We'll learn about why maybe he poo-poos that too.
But he does like Riesling. So the movie, though, was based on a book that came before, and he does say more about it, Merlot that is, in the book.
Oh, okay.
And so he basically says that Merlot is it's a blending wine, but on its own it is it's left wanting and it's characterless, and he has all the descriptors of
poor wine.
He was so perfect in that.
Yeah, role. That was the first role that I really remember him in.
Yeah,
like distinctly.
You know the first role I remember him in. He played a character called Pig Virus. In the Howard Stern.
That was before. I guess
so.
It was before Pig Virus. That's true. And so whenever that was, yes, those two.
I guess it was like the general manager of Howard. WNBC. Say it like this, Howard. Say it like this. But this role really, he got to really showcase his acting skills. He's such a good actor.
Yeah, subtle, good, very well done.
And I went back and I did watch the movie again this week, and I had forgot a lot of the plot.
I know.
I remembered a few scenes, but it was great, and it was. It's really a buddy movie, and wine is kind of like the backdrop. And
I felt it was like one of the first bromance movies for some reason. That's what struck me.
I had a couple thoughts. So one was First of all, it starts in San Diego at some crummy apartment complex.
Yeah, and did you see him driving? You can see the airport and all the...
I forgot that part.
Yeah.
And so then they drive up, he goes to LA on his way up to the Santa Ynez Valley to go wine tasting, but he picks up his buddy, Jack.
Yes.
And so he's Miles, and Miles, Miles Raymond. He's like a failed writer, but a teacher in San Diego. Drives up, and they're gonna go wine tasting. And Jack, who's Hayden, what's his name? Thomas Hayden
Church.
Thomas Hayden Church. I know him from Wings.
Oh yeah.
But they go up there, and my first thought was when I rewatched it was there's this book that I really love called Notes from the Underground.
Okay.
And it's by Dostoevsky. If there's any Dostoevsky fans out there, he's a Russian.
Yes, writer.
Yes. And
Nazarovia.
he describes this, the whole book is like stream of consciousness, and he's just basically like, it's his like internal thoughts, like his mutterings the whole time. And he calls himself a man of heightened consciousness. And he says he's very like bitter and angry at all of those men of spontaneous action. He wishes he can be more like them, kind of. And I thought Paul Giamatti is a man, he's a tortured man of heightened consciousness.
Yes, that fits perfect.
And Wings guy.
Yep. Thomas Hayden Church.
Thomas Hayden Church, he is
opposite.
A spontaneous action, and he's so much freaking seemingly happier for it.
Yes. You could go on and on.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, but you nailed it. That's so perfect.
So that was my thought about it. But they go up there, and even in the movie, he goes, he mentions how they first met. They were roommates at San Diego State freshman year. That's how they're buddies.
How they're buddies. And is it opposites attract? Think of that. You know,
I think so.
To have the
but they
two personality halves.
They like didn't seem to have a ton in common anymore. Yeah. And he's what's his name? Paul Giamatti is like divorced within a couple of years, and Thomas Hayden Church is getting married on that Saturday.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, he goes, and the whole time he's like trying to like hit on women.
Womanize, yeah.
He's totally womanizing. Like, the whole week, that's all he's concerned about. And it's just, but
it's good.
And the one scene where they talk about Merlot is they're going to meet these two ladies who work there, and he says, Thomas Hayden Church is like, dude, just play it cool.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody orders Merlot, just deal with it. And Paul Giamatti's like, I'm losing it. If somebody orders Merlot, I'm fucking And that's pretty much the mention of Merlot.
Nailed it, yeah, right there. But it's so famous. It's so famous. I love it. I love one of the other, you talked about Paul Giamatti just getting crazy. Mm-hmm. One of the other scenes of the movie was the Thomas Hayden Church saying, do not go to the dark side.
Yeah.
So you just must see that dark side come up every time.
Well, he's a failed novelist, and so there's a scene where he finds out that his book is rejected again.
Sad.
And then he goes into the winery, and they're like pouring little tasters, like smaller than this, you know?
That's good.
Like a winery does.
Well, a tasting room.
He goes, just pour me a full glass, buddy. Mm-hmm. The guy's like, this isn't a bar, this is a winery, this is a tasting room. Just pour me a full glass. He like grabs the bottle, pours it in there, and the guy takes his glass from him. He takes the dump bucket and like dumps it all over his head.
Those are the most famous scenes of the movie. The Merlot and then that. Yeah.
Oh, insane.
The dump bucket. I was going to reenact that tonight, but Robin let me.
Hey, go ahead.
I was wearing white.
It's your house. You have to clean.
So we've got George, Carol, Jason, and George said he's aware of the movie, but
oh, watch it, George. It's fun.
It's a fun movie. Yeah, and it's watch it again now because people that was before its time with all the wine speak, right? Floral and flabby and all this. That was really before its time. Now you see it. It's so even more funny. But George said they did a production at the La Jolla Playhouse, so a live version. Which that would be fun.
I wonder if there were any of the actors. Probably different actors for that.
So no, that'd be a fun one to see live.
Yeah, and but the whole kind of like the setting, and I read a little bit more about this. The movie came out in 2004.
Which is when Venissimo came out. Yeah.
Oh,
just so you know, so we have something in common.
Coincidence? I don't know. Should I before we keep going on about this?
Should we talk about the cheeses
I'm
and the
so
wine,
sorry.
and then we can get started. But yes,
do you want to start with the wine?
No, tell them the cheese because then they can
So I want to tell you guys what's in front of you. If you've already started, that's a good thing because we go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But we do have an order that we recommend for the cheeses. The first one is the Evalon, and it's this kind of it looks like a little rock or something, but it's a golden color and it's got kind of white looking polka dots on it, which are crystals, which are gonna give you a nice little crunch.
I say almost Parmesan-y.
It looks Parmesan-y or like almost pecorino-y.
Yes.
The second one is gonna be the Tubby, and the Tubby cheese is also a firmer cheese. It is this kind of yellowish color and these long triangular spears. That's the Tubby. The third cheese is the Sawtooth. The Sawtooth is a little bit softer. My two pieces are kind of sticking together here, but that's the Sawtooth. It has an orange rind on it, and the rind is definitely edible on that. The fourth cheese is the Stilton, and a lot of you have probably heard of Stilton. Stilton is the classic, it's a blue cheese from England. We'll get to that one last. Several accoutrements on your plates. The spread, I'm not even going to call this a jam. It is a plum.
It's plum, and we'll talk to you why we picked plum today.
Complimentary, I'm guessing.
Complimentary pairing.
This reminds me of that plum sauce we get in Chinese restaurants. It goes on the,
Poisson,
the
or
crepe thing. There's blackberries, grapes, sage. There's a fennel salami.
Yes, delicious with the Merlot.
Called Finocchiona. There are golden raisins, Marcona almonds, crackers, and then some flowers for presentation on there.
And edible as well.
Yeah, they're edible. To me,
You're gonna eat one.
they're more about the look.
There's one for each of us.
Okay.
We're both eating. You're
I'll
eating
eat one. Sure.
You're eating the effing flour.
But those are the cheeses. We'll talk more about each one as we go through them.
Yes, exactly. Awesome.
But go ahead and dig in, please.
Yeah, take a little taste, you guys, and like I said, we'll go through and tell you a bit more about it. But I want to tell you a little bit about the wine, if I may, since we are talking wine on Wednesday. So, Merlot from Columbia Valley in Washington. So, Columbia Valley, you guys, is just really very southernmost Washington state. Columbia River is the big river that runs through the valley. It's an amazing, amazing place. It is, it's
the
equal
border
to Napa,
of
right at the
Oregon
border.
and Washington.
Border, excuse me. Yep, the border. Excellent wines. While they're known for their Pinot Noirs, they are also actually have a few Merlots to choose from. This one is called Lydian. And Rob and everybody probably noticed that the Lydian has musical notes on there. Would you care to ask me why Lydian, what this means and what this stands for, Professor?
Gina, why are there musical notes on the bottle? What does it mean and what does it stand for?
Let me tell you. So Lydian is a term for any of you musicians out there. It's a building block for music. So there are major scales, minor scales. There is a Lydian composition of music. And I'm going to demonstrate, Rob. There's some songs that are very famous for the Lydian style of music. I'm going to step over to the piano right now and just play you a little Lydian, which is, I'll just tell you right now. You know how there's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do?
Uh-huh.
In the Lydian scale, the fa, which is the fourth note of the scale, is raised a half step. Okay? So that creates a really happy sound, which is why they picked it. A happy wine, happy sound, is the Lydian scale. So fourth note, raised half step.
What about
allow me to demonstrate? Yes.
What about please excuse my dear Aunt Sally?
Okay, I don't know what that is. And do you know that that's Lydian?
It's an acronym for the
for the
PEMD.
AS. Okay, that's a good
for the
one.
notes.
All right, so here is the Lydian. Here's the regular scale. Okay. Here's the Lydian scale. Slightly different.
Okay.
Want to hear my song that you'll all recognize that is Lydian, and you can name that too?
Yes.
Ready?
The Simpsons.
Woo! It's the Lydian scale.
I did not know that.
Isn't that great?
It was just a subtle difference, but that was
subtle.
So
right?
who wrote The Simpsons?
Oh, now you're going to try to stop me.
I don't know. I wonder if it's somebody who's
famous, but well known.
There are so many famous people who wrote on The Simpsons. Conan O'Brien.
Right, exactly. He started there, didn't he? Yeah, so interesting. But that song uses that Lydian structure.
Fascinating.
And then I realized that two Fleetwood Mac songs, Dreams and Landslide, use the same.
Wow.
And they're both kind of really happy songs. They have a neat beat, which is why the winemakers picked that for their name. Lydian, the building block of music, building block of happy music.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Well done, Rob.
I think of in Hallelujah.
Yeah.
The what's the guy's name? Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
He's like the minor fall and the major lift.
Isn't that so pretty? Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the perfect verses
perfectly.
ever
It's a perfectly written song.
Yeah.
And he poured over it for such a long time.
Oh, so good. Yeah, so well done. So anyway.
Well, that was very nice.
Isn't that nice?
Music
Why'd you
lesson.
like that? Yeah. So now we got a little bit of music theory under the belt on this Wino Wednesday. But I like it. I'm trying to see if we get any plum. The reason we picked plum is that the winemaker themselves thought that there's some plum in this. So if you've got some of the plum jam, try it with the wine. See if it complements each other. Mm-hmm. And I'll try it in just a second too after I stop babbling. But Merlots, you talked earlier about Paul Giamatti also in Sideways not caring for the Cabernet Franc.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Cabernet Franc is actually the father grape of the Merlot. Mm-hmm. And Charentes, I can't pronounce it properly, is the mother grape.
Good enough, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And henceforth...
They had a baby.
And
it was Merlot.
It was Merlot. Well, how they came up with that name for...
Do you want to know how they came up with the name?
Do tell.
Well, the French came up with the name, and it comes from the French for blackbird.
Blackbird.
Speaking of songs, blackbird singing in the...
That'd be great if Blackbird was written in the Lydian style, but
Wouldn't
I don't think
it?
it was. But.
Blackbird, because the color of
very
the grape looks like the same as a blackbird.
Is a blackbird. Okay, so a very dark black grape. The wine itself, this one is a dark, deep color. Mm-hmm.
And so that goes to the kind of the origin of Merlot, and so it's credited as coming from Bordeaux, which of course is such a famous wine region in southern France. About 80% of the grapes that come from Bordeaux are red grapes.
Okay.
So it's more of a red area. The two leading, there's about 5 that are really grown the most of any, but 2 of them are really prominent, and they are Cabernet Sauvignon, and Merlot. And it does get used for blending quite a bit, but that's kind of the origin.
Interesting.
And but Merlot is the second most grown grape in the world. It is grown everywhere.
That's so crazy because you don't hear about it as much, but yet look at this.
It's grown everywhere. It's really popular in California, so it's big up in like Napa, Sonoma, but Washington, Oregon, New York. It's grown everywhere. It's grown in South America, Australia.
An easier grape to grow.
Yeah, and so you have a couple of versions. There are the kind of like the New World, which are the really, really ripe versions. When it gets really ripe, it'll have a higher alcohol percentage, and you get the more dark fruit, so like plummy, dark cherry notes. And then the more like traditional or classic way it's made is the like kind of old school Bordeaux style, which is kind of they're not ripened as long. And so the alcohol level is not quite as high, the body is not quite as full, and the flavor itself is more like, it's more acidic, but it's also more like strawberry, it's more lighter fruit.
Interesting.
So there's 2 different styles to it.
And I hear that, and you bring up the Bordeaux, this is just well suited to aging in the oak. Like this is the traditional classic age in oak wine.
Yeah, and they're famous from coming from the right bank, and I forget what the river is called that goes through the area, but a lot of the Bordeaux producers are just in the same area there, and they're known for aging in oak, and typically it's the reds that are very tannic do really well. They can hold up during the aging process. And there's another line from Sideways that I wanted to talk about when she talks about the aging of wine and what happens. But I wanted to go back and do a little bit of like kind of a history and set the stage for what was going on before that movie came out, Sideways 2004. In the 90s, there was a study that came out that said that they called it the French paradox. It was they tied red wine drinking to the French having less heart disease.
I am living by that study. Like I fall back if anybody yells at me for eating too much cheese and drinking too much wine. I'm like,
that's great, Gina,
paradox.
but that study has been debunked like 10
Stop,
times.
Rob, don't ruin my day.
but that study led to a huge surge in red wine sales.
Interesting.
So everybody's like, I better drink more red wine. It's good for you.
Oh.
And one of the grapes that really benefited was Merlot.
Merlot.
And so Merlot sales just went through the roof for a decade or so. But while there were still some quality versions, there were also a lot of very low quality versions made at this time. And so for people like Paul Giamatti's character in Sideways, who was kind of a wine snob. They in that kind of world, in that inner circle, they were already poo-pooing Merlot because of all the crappy versions.
Okay, you could this parallel to the beer world, right? You got the craft beers and all this stuff, and they're gonna poo-poo like a Coors Light.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's still great lager styles out there. It's like poo-pooing cheddar because of craft singles or something.
Right.
But what people don't realize is that cheddars and there's some great Goudas out there that are very different from the red wax rubbery thing.
True.
Dig into the first cheese if you haven't already.
Oh, the Evalon. But before I do, I did the plum spread on a Marcona almond with the wine. Perfect. I mean, like perfect. They do go hand in hand just this well.
Nice.
I can't even speak already.
Sometimes when we plant flavors in your head, now you can really recognize them.
But to be fair, sometimes they haven't worked. Like you go, ooh, that kind of clashes. This one is a match made in heaven. So everyone enjoy the plum sauce.
The Evalon it's kind of like a Parmesan meets Asiago meets Gouda. It's made with 100% goat's milk, and it's from a small creamery in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is definitely one of the hot spots. And it's made with raw goat's milk. It actually looks a lot like, not to get too esoteric, but it looks like a goat's milk Gouda called Ballerina.
It does.
If anyone knows that cheese.
Yes. And I gotta say, you gotta take a whiff of this, everybody. Let your nose, I mean, the nose plays such a role in wine and cheese tasting. To take a whiff, to me, that has that goat.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
That is gamey. The aroma.
It's like salty, sweet,
but definitely gamey. And Garonne River, by the way, is the river that runs through it. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. There's a Garonne. We're probably saying Garonne. And there's a couple of other big rivers that feed it. But in fact, we're gonna visit there on our France tour in the spring of next year. So it'll be my first time going to the region. I'm really excited about that.
To France.
To southern France, to that part of France. And it's very close to the Basque region as well.
This is goaty.
It's very goaty.
What do you think on your tongue? Because with the wine, it is ultra goat.
So to me, I just took a little tiny bite, and I got a really kind of like dry, almost biting finish on the cheese, which to me screams like wine.
Give me wine. Yeah, whoa. It accentuates even the bite, I think, when you drink the wine with it. That is strong for me. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm feeling really lighter flavors today, but this one is kicking me in the face. Not bad, but I mean, definitely, this was goat.
Yeah, this is a goaty cheese. Now, goat cheeses are more often, I would say, made and served younger. So like, what I was used to for a goat cheese is something crumbly, something soft, that are really sour and tangy, but goat cheeses can be aged just like any other cheese. This one is a year plus. I think this is probably more like a year and a half or 2 years, just judging by the look and the texture on it. It's raw milk, which is interesting, meaning it's not pasteurized. So we can serve and import raw milk cheeses as long as they are over 60 days. That's the cutoff for those. Speaking of age on cheese, there was a scene, and I actually thought in my head, I always thought Paul Giamatti did this kind of this speech or this monologue in the movie, but it was the girl that he was kind of trying to date, and I don't remember her name in the movie.
Yeah, blonde.
The blonde with the curly hair. But she's they're drinking one night, and she's talking about how when a wine ages and then it hits its peak and its perfection, and then it starts its descent or its decline.
What if I'm like a wine and I've hit my decline, Rob?
Well, I was thinking...
You're not?
No.
Okay.
It's the same thing. There's so many similarities, but the same thing happens with cheese.
It does, true.
So like, on a usually softer cheeses, like a Camembert or a young Chev, we'll get them, and they're kind of like too young or mild. You can eat them, but they're gonna get a lot better
with
over
age.
time.
Yeah.
And then they kind of hit a peak, and then at that point, I shouldn't say they're gonna. Because it's all preference too. Like some people might like it a little bit older, but at some point they are going to kind of decline. Like for example, this cheese, people say, well, how long can it age? They can let it sit there for another 5 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what's going to happen is that it's going to just get really dry and really almost it's not going to go bad per se. Like it's not going to hurt you. But the cheesemaker,
not going to be better.
Yeah, the cheesemaker kind of determines, what, we feel like this is the right time to release it. Like this is where it's going to peak, and then it's still going to be a cheese. You still can kind of eat it. It's just not going to be as good.
Right.
We don't think after this period.
They know. Mm-hmm.
But like with soft cheeses,
that was a bite.
When you get, say, a camembert or something, it's going to get completely runny and really pungent. And then it's going to get a little bit sort of, what's the word? Like ammoniated. But it won't go bad per se. It'll just be not as good as it was a few days before.
Yeah, exactly. So Carol asked, Jason's having a tough time with this Evalon too. And I'm with you on this one. How to serve this. Now, could you do it in a dessert course? I think it's a little gamey for that, personally.
Well,
now I could go get some honey and try it. The plum didn't knock out that goat flavor for me, but honey might be okay. What do you think in there? Did you try? The grape is good with it. I need something sweet with this, Carol.
Oh.
If I was going to do this on dessert, I would absolutely do it with something very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Honey.
And that is a general
Mm-hmm.
a general rule or tactic for anything that's really strong is sweet to go with it to kind of balance it out. Stinky cheeses, blue cheeses, sweet is always a good way to, I hate to say it, but kind of cover it up, even balance it
maybe, because it's so gamey, it's so strong.
I wonder how it would do if you grated it.
Yeah, I think it'd be fantastic. Grate it on like a lamb stew. I think something like a meat that's also on the gamey side, or a bolognese or something. This would be spectacular.
I think a little bit would go a long way if you just grated it.
Yep, that's how I would personally use this one. It's too much for me on its own. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm.
I think it would be good if you did like some kind of if you grated that and then did some kind of sweet glaze, like a balsamic glaze or something like that, because it would balance it out and it would give you a lot of depth.
Yes. And Carol, the question came up, how long we think the Evalon is aged. It's at least a year, but Rob and I think this is getting close to it.
It says 12 plus months on this one, but this is probably, in my opinion, more like 18 months to 24 months.
Just by the texture of it, Carol, it's so crumbly, and the intensity of it.
Yeah, really
This one's packing a punch. So this is getting close to 2, I agree.
We ready for the next cheese?
We are ready. Let's do it.
Any other questions on just in general before we go?
Nope, just how we would use it. And cooking, yes, Carol, we were saying shading over something, but cooking it like parm, yes. I would use it in place of parm if you are a fan of having even a more kick. I think parm gives it sweetness and creaminess. This would give it unctuousness and gaminess.
Goatiness.
Goatiness. That is a word, and it is true. That tastes like some of those goats smell. Right? It does.
It's like being in the barn with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Wherever
it is barny. So yes.
All right.
Okay, let's go to the next one. This one's going to be like a palate cleanser, right? Hey, were you hugging it over there?
No, you got this one.
Oh, yeah, look at this.
I left you the big one.
So this one, you guys, is the Tubby. What a cute name is that, right? Tubby.
Yeah, actually.
Golden Tubby.
So I thought I assumed the name came from the wheel's kind of big. So I thought it was just like, it's like you call like an overweight person Tubby. But I thought they were saying the big wheel, it's Tubby. But it's actually somebody's name. And would that suck to be named Tubby?
Oh, I know. You're Tubby. So I'm feeling Tubby, but oh well.
So the cheese is named for William Bunker Tubby, one of Brooklyn's most famous architects and designer of the Pratt Library. But the cheese. So the cheese is a cow's milk. It's also raw.
Yeah, we've got a lot of raw. That's good today.
Which is really interesting that we have a couple raw milk cheeses. They're both domestic so far, so that's cool. The cheese itself is made at Springbrook Farm, who are up in Vermont, and they make a lot of really fantastic cheeses. They send it down, speaking of aging, they send it down to Crown Finish Caves, which are in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, you say?
Yeah, is it a subway?
An old tunnel.
Old tunnel.
I don't know if it was a subway tunnel, but some old tunnel.
So it's sort of like the idea of the cave idea for aging, where it's consistent. There's good airflow, but they age the cheeses right there in the city.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I want to know which someday. We haven't been there. Have you been there?
I've not.
Been there. Yeah,
I've not. But someday we'd like to check it out. The let's see. There's art on the actual cheese, like the label for the cheese.
Yeah.
The art is designed by an artist who lives in a loft right above the caves.
Nice. Okay. Nice.
Which is kind of cool. So they call it Crown Finish Caves, but it's just an old train station.
Yeah, super cool. I'm going to tell you with the wine, perfect.
Good.
Just perfect. And I did it with the plum now and the wine. Let's try those together.
I take a bite, you drink.
I will do it. Oh, together, spectacular. To me, Carol, we talked about having a dessert plate. I would do Tubby with plum or some jam. That to me is a perfect dessert bite.
This is my favorite type of cheese. For those of you who have done all 20 Wino Wednesdays, I'm sorry because you hear me say this all the time.
Here he goes.
These are Alpine style.
Yeah, this is almost Alpine cheddar to me.
Yeah,
Interesting, right?
It's really nutty. It has kind of like a Comte thing going on. Alpines are, I mean, just like anything else, the longer they're aged, the more texture they're going to get. And this one is probably in that same range. Probably not as old as the Evalon, but a year or so, probably a little bit over a year. It has a natural rind, which kind of looks like a Parmesan rind. It gets really hard and crusty, so there, you might have a little bit of rind on yours, but that's a delicious cheese.
Oh, I love it. It's minerally. I for both these cheeses, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. When there's raw milk involved, I do think there's a complexity that's there, and these both have it. There's so many different crazy flavors. You can go on and on with what you taste in them. So it's kind of fun to have that raw milk. This is the real deal. It doesn't get any more authentic, old world style cheese than this. Yeah.
When in all of the Alpine cheeses that we carry, the traditional ones, the ones that actually come from Switzerland and northern Italy, Austria, Bavaria, the ones that come from Europe, they're almost exclusively raw milk. They're always raw milk.
Yeah.
It's just part of the process.
Their
it's
culture.
The way they make, and they're always aged more than 60 days, so that's not an issue. We can take them in. But there are some great American copycat versions. Yeah, raw milk Alpine cheeses. There's one from Wisconsin called Pleasant Ridge Reserve, which is based on Beaufort. This one is kind of more based on a Comte, but you're right, it has a cheddary nuttiness.
It does have a cheddariness to me, which I love. That kind of cross. But that would be fantastic shaved as well. I think this one you could do little curls with it, like with a potato peeler, would make beautiful little curls.
I just saw in my tasting notes, it says flavor profile for this cheese has a little hint of white chocolate. Now I have to taste it again.
Okay, okay, everybody taste and see if we think there's any white chocolate. White chocolate. I've had white chocolate for a while.
Is white chocolate really chocolate?
No, you can argue. There's a whole nother episode. White chocolate. Perhaps.
Maybe.
Because it's a little sweet.
I love white chocolate, by the way.
Yeah, I only that. How do you eat white chocolate?
Am I trashy?
Do you eat a white chocolate bar, or I think of white chocolate covered pretzels, like.
I love it. Or what about is it raisins or white?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, also good.
You
love white chocolate, okay?
I do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You do. That's like a guilty pleasure. Well, I like that song by Paul McCartney, "Silly Love Songs," which is like a cheesy little song, but I love it. It's a guilty pleasure song.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Okay.
Well, it's not bad. But white chocolate is like sort of, I don't know. To me, something's clashing in my head. And I hear white chocolate. So there was like this basketball player named Jason Williams, and he was this he was a white guy, but he had a lot of I don't know. He played with a lot of pizzazz or soul, I guess. They called him White Chocolate.
Okay.
Then you said Paul McCartney, and then I started thinking of Ebony and Ivory.
I loved that song.
And so that's where I was going with all of that.
Yes, and that could be like a chocolate commercial.
Yeah.
Ebony and Ivory, because they're both good together.
White chocolate versus dark chocolate.
And it goes with our music theme. You can't have the notes. You have to have white notes. You have to have the black notes. You have to have the
Can you go perform that, please?
I have that song, but I have not performed it in a long time.
Could you play it? I'm not putting you on the spot.
You're putting me on the
next
spot.
time.
Okay, I'll think about it. Maybe we'll start with that because I loved that song and I used to, but I've had some Merlot now. I'm not sure, but I love that song.
I think they're referring to the piano, but
yes.
Okay, so we've done the Evalon. We have had the Tubby.
Love it.
Some
Evalon
of the words
Tubby.
today, Tubby, Flabby, you know.
There's a theme going on.
Reading cheese.
Reading cheese, it's all good. Okay, but that's great with the wine.
The next one
Sawtooth.
is the Sawtooth.
I'm dying for this one. I'm hoping
I
it's
love this cheese.
it's so good. What a great name, right? Sawtooth.
Sawtooth is named for... Okay, so the cheese comes from a town called Trout Lake, which is like in the shadow of Mount Adams, I believe, which is is it a volcano? Is it an active volcano?
I think it is.
I think it is or was. It's in that same part of Washington State. It's it's inland or east a little bit, but it's kind of southern part of the state. And it's from a cheesemaker, a creamery called Cascadia Creamery, and they make a bunch of cheeses. Most of what they make is raw milk, super old school, traditional.
I'm gonna hold it up here.
This one might be, I don't know if this is raw milk. Maybe someone can look it up.
Yeah. It would have said, I think.
Oh, it is. This
Yeah.
is raw milk, which is great. This one is aged between 60 and 75 days, so it's right at the border.
Yeah, of when we're allowed to sell it.
Yeah, it's also. At the
Oh my
border.
god, it's so it's a stinky cheese.
Oh,
it's so good. Did you drop some?
Yeah, that's
Pick
for
it up.
panini.
I cleaned the floor earlier. You're good.
I'll put it
But
over here.
Sawtooth, and to have this I don't know this texture. How do you describe this texture? What's your word for this texture? I say bouncy.
Let me think. This is a it's like velvety.
Ooh, okay, velvet.
You like velvety?
I love velvet.
It's like velvet, like Coming to America.
Oh no, another one.
Okay, this is gonna be bad, but
Okay.
to me the texture is a little bit like a Kraft Singoli.
Oh, Rob.
No, but like not in a bad way.
It is. Okay.
It
I have
has
to
a
give you
little
that.
bit of that,
It's
right?
bendy.
It's bendy. Supple is a word I sometimes use. Like if it's kind of bendy and it's not
Spongy.
brittle per se, spongy maybe. It's not quite fudgy. It's not like thick enough
No,
for fudgy.
fudgy might be next.
We sound like Miles Raymond from. We're the Miles Raymonds of cheese.
Yes,
right now.
of cheese, exactly. It's a fudgy texture. I do not appreciate the non-fudgy textures.
I was gonna say where the name came from, and it comes from the nearby Sawtooth Huckleberry Fields.
What a great word too, huckleberry.
Sawtooth Huckleberry Fields on the shoulder of Mount Adams, where that's the mountain there, where the Native Americans have picked berries for thousands of years.
Okay. So try it with the blackberry is what I'm thinking when you say that. I think they might go, this is funky. Taste it. Did you taste it already? It's super funk, which is good. That's what you expect from Sawtooth. And the washed rind's going to give it funk. The raw milk, funk.
That's
but this
good.
one, with the blackberry?
It gives it a little texture too. It is. It's also a regional pairing because sometimes we touch on that. If we're ever not really sure which way to go on a pairing, we will just go regional. A phrase that we often say is what grows together goes together.
Yeah, right.
And
so the berries.
We were talking before about Bordeaux, and another famous region is Burgundy, of course, Champagne. Oftentimes, just to kind of to be safe, if somebody has a wine from one of those places and they're looking for the perfect cheese, we'll give them a cheese from one of those regions. The famous cheese from Burgundy is called Epoisse.
Oh, right.
And Epoisse is a really famous wash rind. If you don't know Epoisse, I'll just describe it. It's a really soft cow's milk round. It's a little softer than the Sawtooth, but they call it a washed rind cheese. And a washed rind is the technical term. We call them stinky cheeses.
Yeah.
But what happens
see it on the edge.
when they wash the rind on certain cheeses in this family, the color changes to this orange, reddish. They're really easy to spot. So when you see that color, it's a washed rind, and these are our stinky cheeses. So this is Cascadia Farms version of a wash rind.
Of a wash rind stinky, and it is a stinky.
Oh yeah, but stinky in the best way.
In a great way.
In the best way.
Yeah. However, if I may say, I think it clashes a little bit with the wine until I put the berry with it. Then I think it mellows it out a little bit. But Carol thinks it's delicious.
It's so good.
Grilled cheese. This one would be ridiculous.
Yep.
Carol, this would melt like a dream. I also think melting in the crozettes. Oh my god, I was gonna make those tonight.
Ooh.
The French little pastas, the buckwheat pastas. I think this Sawtooth with that would be divine because it reminds me a bit of Reblochon, which is another wash rind cheese, raw milk. Don't you think? I think it's Reblochon-esque.
I was going to say that.
Yay.
When you started talking about recipes, you beat me to it. But there's the Reblochon, the famous Reblochon dish, which is Reblochon and potatoes, basically.
Yes.
Potatoes, gratin.
Tartiflette.
Is that tartiflette?
Yes, is the.
That's what it's called. It's the ultimate peasant food, right?
So good.
But it's like now you pay $40 for it in a restaurant probably.
The ultimate peasant food. Yeah.
just like we were talking about pizza the other night. I mean, these are all peasant dishes that we now pay a lot for. But it is very similar to Reblochon, and there's that whole family of cheeses. Munster, Limburger is another one that's pretty well known from Germany and Belgium.
For the stinkies.
Ooh,
I'm gonna do the Finocchiona. Okay, I'm wrapping my Sawtooth in the Finocchiona because I did like the Finocchiona, by the way, with that strong Evalon, kind of because the fennel popped out.
Yeah.
Tamed the goat. Now I'm gonna try it with this Sawtooth because I think this looks like that would be dreamy.
So I got another flavor on the cheese, and if you guys
what are you making over there? I don't know if it's in the screen with your little
I have a Jenga thing.
Jenga, okay.
Another good band. Bay Area. The flavor profile. So when I was tasting that Sawtooth, as I got closer to the rind, I don't know if you got this, but I get almost like a woodsy thing.
Good one.
I don't know how to woodsy is the best descriptor I can think of. Oftentimes there are cheeses that get wrapped in bark, and there's a flavor that kind of comes off, and I don't know if it's from the bark or if it's from the rind and all the bacteria and stuff that's in the rind, but it has this kind of woodsy or earthy thing, and it's delicious. It sounds weird, but it's delicious, trust me.
So good. This is spectacular. I can't believe we've had 3 raw milk cheeses today, which is so awesome because that is so rare to get the 3 together. So it's very fun. It's funny that we went to the mild one, but back to the rind. That's my favorite part of that cheese. The interior is great, but I could just peel off the rind and eat the whole thing.
I agree. So I just had the rind. My last 2 bites were rind, and if your rind is still sitting there, eat it.
Yeah, eat it. What is that rind over there?
Don't give it to your dog. This is the paste. It fell on the ground. I mean, she says her floor is clean. I just didn't want to eat it on camera. That's all. I'll eat it after we get off. I'll eat it.
Someone, don't throw that away.
What's really fascinating about the coincidence? I don't know. Did we pick these on purpose? All raw milk. They're all domestic as well, which is so fascinating.
But when we were picking, we just knew I was looking for the things that went with Merlot that I thought went with the Cab Franc, the Merlot, just that flavor, and the plum. All these notes of the plum. Coincidentally, they were domestic and raw, so that was amazing.
Yeah, we've got New York, Vermont on a collaboration. We've got Wisconsin. It's from LeClaire Farm or LeClaire Creamery in Wisconsin. That's the Evalon. And then the Sawtooth from Cascadia Creamery in Washington. So we're
coast to coast.
All over the map.
Across the map. And how awesome are those? Those can stand up to any old world European cheese, right? 100%.
Anyone who knows their stuff. If they're people from France and Italy who really know their stuff, like the people in our industry that we see at various shows, they give us our props, meaning American cheesemakers. They totally give us our props because these are, they're based on European classics, originals, but
of course they were there first.
It had to. Just like our wines, just like our beers, but we do it. We do them very, very well. If I do so, we should pat ourselves on the back.
Well done, cheesemakers. So good. They're gonna cut that?
Yeah. I'll share with you.
Because you better.
Here, you take that.
Okay. Okay. Now we're going to the blues, you guys, and blue with Merlot. I'm gonna see what we think.
Blues can clash. So,
all right, real quick before we go to the blue, Carol thought, what dinner would you serve the Sawtooth with?
what dinner? Like
French. Well, we were saying that tartiflette. Like, I just think...
Yeah.
I think it needs to be in a melty dish, like a raclette. Wherever you would use a raclette, wherever you would use a Gruyere, I would throw this into a fondue for funk.
What you can do, yeah. So if you're doing something melty, the base is always going to be alpine or a combination of alpines. And then to funk it up or to put a little twist on it, you can add something like the sawtooth or the washed rind. The tartiflette is a really classic dish. If you're doing, what's another washed rind? You can do like a lot of baked dishes with the washed rind cheeses.
Yes. I could give me a second. Keep going, but the tartiflette's the only one. It's stuck on that in my brain.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I mean, they're so great. Just as
fondue.
is.
Yeah, just melted.
Fondue.
Puff pastry would be delicious.
Puff pastry with a little bit of something sweet, whether it's like even just a fig jam or something is great.
Yeah.
Pairing wise for wines, they're pretty versatile. Like they're fun to play with. You can do probably the most traditional thing to do with washed rind cheeses are those big German and Eastern French white wines.
Yeah,
which we've done. We featured a few, the Rieslings and the Gewürztraminers.
Well said.
Did I say it right? I think you start laughing. Like
I know. I was waiting for you to say.
I've learned.
What was the other one? Gruner.
Gruner.
Well done.
Veltliner.
Mr. Graf, Herr Graf.
But the other one is beer.
Oh yes. Any beer dish. That Sawtooth. 100%. I think you nailed it with a beer thing.
So if you're whatever beer. Gosh, what's a beer? I don't know.
It's a Belgian. You need a Belgian. You need
or sour.
A sour. I think with that would be just perfect. I was gonna say with a rye bread, cornichons, and a beer. That Sawtooth would be spectacular.
What's
the plowman's lunch?
That's what I was going to ask you about.
The plowman's lunch.
Isn't that an onion in the plowman's?
Onions, yeah, onions, some pickly thing, bread,
and a washed rind.
Yes, that
cheese.
There it is. Yeah,
Limburger. So this is the Stilton. Did you try it with
I
the
did.
wine?
Okay, yes, but let's go back. I'm going to eat more because I started talking and typing.
So what I just realized, which was kind of interesting right before we got into the Stilton, is that Stilton is pasteurized.
Yes, which is interesting, right? Because I think a lot of people would assume that might be a raw.
You would think. I mean, you look at this cheese, it is the most classic blue cheese there is. I mean, the appearance of it with the crusty rind, you're just like, it doesn't get any more.
No, it's the most gorgeous specimen
looking than this.
And you can eat the rind, yes, again.
Definitely eat the rind. And they, for whatever reason, they made this cheese pasteurized. I think there is a reason. I don't know the exact reason, but it had to do with the laws and when they made this cheese that they had to pasteurize everything. The laws kind of loosened with pasteurization, and they allowed for raw milk versions of this cheese to be made, but they had protected the name Stilton by that time. So there is a newer cheese that is this exact recipe, and it's from the same place, and it's made with raw milk. And I say new, it's probably created in the last 20 years maybe. And they call it Stichelton. And Stichelton is actually what this cheese was called 1,000 years ago. It's an Old English word, so and they brought it back.
Stichelton was there before Stilton, is what you're saying.
Stichelton was what Stilton was. Yeah, first it was Stichelton, and then they started calling it Stilton, and then they changed the law to where it had to be pasteurized. And so Stilton, as we know it, is always pasteurized.
Yes.
Then the laws loosened up a little bit. They started making a raw milk Stilton, but now that word was taken.
Yes.
So they said, okay, fine, we're going to call this Stilton, like we used to a long time ago. So there is, if you can find it, we carry it.
We occasionally get it. It's hard to get, yeah.
But it looks just like Stilton.
100%.
And it tastes very similar, but as Gina said, sometimes with the raw milk, you just get a little extra kind of like or kind of wild yeastiness to it or something.
Yeah. I love it. And I guess it just depends on the wheel. I think it depends on the age of the wheel and everything, Rob, because I've had the Stilton before too, and I think sometimes you can't tell the difference. This is just as good.
So good.
The pasteurized version, so Stilton, and it's because you can't pronounce. You say Stichelton because that's maybe
Stichelton. Am I wrong?
Stichelton. It's because I have the German thing. I'll say Stichelton.
Well, I mean,
but I think it might be because it's an English word.
Yeah.
Supposedly, so it might be your way.
Well, I mean, I speak English, Gina. I don't speak.
You speak in tongues. I'm not sure what you speak.
I speak BS.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, whatever language that comes from. Rob is an expert.
Stilton.
Stilton's awesome.
And Stichelton, but Stilton is a blue cheese. It's always cow's milk. It's named for the town of Stilton. It comes from a region called the East Midlands. It's always made there. It's one of the major blue cheeses from around the world. There's also Roquefort.
Yes.
Roquefort is from a place called Roquefort. It's always sheep's milk. And then there's also Gorgonzola, which is from a town called Gorgonzola.
I call them the Three Musketeers of blues.
The only thing we're kind of leaving out is the Spanish blue, which is less known.
Oh, yeah.
The big Spanish blue is probably, it is one called Cabrales, but it's harder to find.
And there's a reason, though, Rob.
It's very sneaky.
Wait, I can barely take a bite of the true Cabrales. And we got to tell you, to be fair, I mean, a lot of people will sell something called Cabrales, but it's really Valdion, which is a tamed down version of Cabrales.
Yeah.
But if you can find the real deal, which I don't think we have any at the moment at any of the shops, it's more powerful than Roquefort.
I've only seen Cabrales maybe 3 times in like 15 years.
That one will knock your face off. I mean, that is such a strong blue cheese. To me, that's the most powerful blue out there.
You can see when you see Cabrales and we cut it open. I mean, you can judge a cheese on its appearance. And
True.
For a blue, the more bluing there is, the stronger it's going to be. And a Cabrales is it's almost completely blue.
All blue.
I mean, Roquefort is pretty blue, and there's really big kind of tunnels in it. Holes.
Yeah.
But Cabrales is smaller ones, but it's almost completely blue.
It has these delicate veins like this Stilton does, but there's so many more of them. Because Stilton, you can see there's a ton of just the cheese, the creamy cheese part. So to me, Stilton's the most delicate of the 3. Then you get the Gorgonzola Picante, the one, and to me that's the next one. And then Roquefort is powerful. Yeah. But Cabrales tops them all. We're going to do a Spanish one coming. We'll get Cabrales in. We have to. Yeah. Because it's going to be something that's going to go with one of our wines. But tell them about the Colston Bassett though, because there's different Stiltons. There's hundreds of makers of Stilton. So tell them about Colston Bassett though.
The Colston Bassett is really there's 2 major ones. There's one called Crockwell Bishop and there's one called Colston Bassett, and they're both in the area. They're around this place called Melton Mowbray, which is really where the cheese comes from, even though the name is for an adjacent town or county. They call the counties shires. Just like I love that word. Like in The Hobbit.
Oh, I want to live in the Shire. I live in the Shire of San Diego.
So it's, I guess Stilton is like the Shire that is nearby. It's actually very, very similar to Shropshire, which is from another...
Shrop? A shire called Shrop?
It's from a neighboring, place. And Shropshire is basically Stilton, but with a little bit of annatto coloring in it.
Yeah,
so it looks kind of like a cheddar. But Colston Bassett, for our money, is the top producer. I mean, they're right there. So if we can get them, we do. And there are a couple other ones. They come in through another retailer / exporter called Neal's Yard Dairy.
Yeah, a lot of people know that. There's a lot of their shops are in London. Neal's Yard shops.
So Neal's Yard is they're a cheese shop, but they also do some export. But most importantly, I would say Neal's Yard. They've been around for 40 or 50 years now. Probably in the 70s. Didn't they start in the 70s?
I think 70s sounds about right.
Late 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
What they did was they went into the countryside. So they're in London. I think they now have 2 storefronts and then kind of a big office where they age and where all the offices are. And it's called the Archways. It's actually another train station.
Yes, right.
But they go out into the countryside and they bring back where they bring all of these country cheeses into the city, and they have been for a long time.
It's really nice to support those small cheesemakers, right? Way out in the country.
So they really feature more UK cheeses. I mean, specifically England, but they do carry some Irish and Scottish and Welsh stuff.
Yeah.
And then from featuring it in London, they really put it on a platform, and they get it out to people like us in the United States. And so a lot of them have come through Neil's Yard, and our job is easy. Like we just trust distributors and exporters, and if Neil's Yard says, hey, this is our pick, this is who we go with, we trust what they say.
Yeah, because they're right at the source. The Stilton with the wine is spectacular. Do it with the plum. Put a little plum, you guys, spread on the Stilton and try it with the wine. It's amazing. Stilton at the holidays, Rob. So I've heard that, and I've tried this myself. A holiday treat in England is to take a wheel of Stilton, and they make little wheels for the holidays, little jars of them or whatever, and kind of pour out the center of the Stilton, and then pour port wine into the center. Let that soak. I've heard that some people start soaking that, doing what I just said, in September, in anticipation of eating it in December for Christmas.
Wow.
So you just let that port wine soak in. You could do any wine. Do your favorite. Whatever their favorite is, soak it in this blue cheese, but port is tradition with the Stilton. And then set it out and just spoons. You can just spoon out and what you want to eat. This is spectacular with it.
Good.
Our friend Jason said he's learning to love the blues. Yay!
Yes.
After all this, and Megan's trying to.
We broke them down.
Working. You work on Megan.
We'll work on Megan. We're gonna put some blue on our pizza crust.
Because it's really, really delicious. But with the wine, it's awesome. I gotta say, I'm such a fan of the blues.
That was really good with the plum. I put the plum on it. I'm saving
the plum on it's amazing.
The plum for some mushy pork later though too.
I thought you were having a burger later.
Oh, I am. No, the first thing I did when I got here, I go, Gina, I've already committed to a burger tonight. We're downtown, so I'm like, I'm gonna go to Hodad's tonight. And then we were talking about work half hour later, and I go, have you had do you know the bacon on a Hodad's burger? She's like, you're hungry, aren't you?
You're hungry. We're like talking about something entirely different, and here comes the Hodad's.
We were off the subject entirely.
So apparently,
I went back to Hodad's bacon.
Yeah. We should do a Wino Wednesday with Hodad's. What pairs perfect with Hodad's?
We're doing Torrontes, I know.
Oh, that's next. Torrontes. Does anyone know this? Varietal. Argentinian.
I don't know a ton about it, so it'll be fun to learn. We were just talking about doing Rioja, which is the Spanish region, and that could be what we get Cabrales for.
Ooh, we're gonna have to wait to do that. Yeah.
So we'll do that one. And if people do have any special requests or ideas, please email us or chat about it. But we've got a lot of ideas coming up. When we go through them all, then we'll just start back at the beginning.
It's going to be a few years. I printed 8 pages of wine varietals that we still haven't tried yet. That we're going to try. And I will have drank all of them. And so we'll have Carol, Jason, George, everyone out there. Thank you.
You can save your corks and put them in your ceiling. I used to do that.
Did you? What? I used to make bird cages, bird feeders out of the corks.
Oh no! What did we do in college? We kept all the bottle caps because we were beer drinkers.
Okay, and what did you do with them? Just put them in a jar?
We at one point we had some really sort of like not very clean apartment in the San Diego State area, and we pressed all the caps into the ceiling. We didn't get our deposit back.
This is why no one rents to. This is why no one rents to young boys. Oh my God, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so we started with Sideways, so I want to end with Sideways, Rob, because we did not touch on this, but the whole conversation of grapes. I want to know, are you a Pinot grape that is temperamental, needs a little care and attention? Or are you more like a Cab grape, a Cabernet Sauvignon?
You could probably answer this better.
That thrives anywhere and is super powerful.
Oh.
That was Paul Giamatti's take on those 2 grapes and why he loved Pinot so much. And it's because he needs a little care, right? A little temperamental.
Well,
so which one are you?
So going back to my
Pinot or a Cab.
I also am am I a man of heightened consciousness or a man of spontaneous action? I think I'm more of a Paul Giamatti.
And I'm going to sort of give you it. Just because you like to process and mull and look at all this, all the notes and stuff. Yeah.
But I will say, in my I've done a lot of I've done a lot of thinking and working, and I've kind of like come back to the beginning, and I've always wanted to be more of a, what's his name? Thomas Hayden Church. Jack is his name in the movie.
Exactly.
And I think from doing a lot of work and a lot of sort of searching and exploring, I've become more like a cab as opposed to a Pinot Noir. But
I think you're a blend.
Yeah, I'm a
Perhaps
blend.
a blend.
I'm a Bordeaux.
You're a Bordeaux. You're a blend. Right?
Oh,
That's okay. But I think that's interesting.
I want to ask what you are, but before that, at the end of the movie, and I didn't remember any of this. At the end of the movie, Paul Giamatti, Miles, he's in this little diner, I guess back in San Diego, and he's like eating a burger with onion rings.
Maybe with Toadad's. You're already thinking of a burger. That is you.
With bacon. And
with bacon.
They pan down, and he has like he's snuck in a bottle of wine into the diner or this fast food restaurant.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And he pours it into his foam cup, and he's like swirling it in his foam cup, and I couldn't. They really quickly showed the label on the wine, but then later I read the wine he's drinking in that diner at the end of the movie by himself is a Bordeaux, and there's Merlot in it.
Oh, did they do it on purpose?
I don't know. But people think that that's like a flaw in the movie. Like, do they know he's drinking a Merlot at the end?
A flaw on purpose.
Maybe. I don't. Well, I don't know.
We don't know.
Ask whoever
came up with this.
Made the movie or wrote the book.
Right, or wrote the book.
So what are you?
I don't know, Rob. What am I? I think I feel I started as a Pinot, maybe about the same. No.
You're more of a cab. You're resilient.
You're
like you can thrive anywhere.
I'll just make. I don't know. Maybe more cab. Maybe am I getting a little more Pinot-esque?
No, because you're not. You're not. Neither of us. Okay. Neither of us are very.
True. The temperamental part, no.
We're very go with the flow, I would say, and we balance off others who are more rigid, I would say.
Do we know anyone like that?
Just saying, like, so we're very, and even at work at Venissimo, Gina and I, we have a similar sort of philosophy, but we do need more of the temperamental types to kind of keep us in line.
In line and check. And it's Rob, it's my yin yang. I don't know. I just think that you need both.
Yeah.
It's good to be one, it's good to be other. So a Pinot Cab blend is all I'm saying is that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
A little bit of both.
I 100% agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note.
What are you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. We might have a good. Everybody loved the cheeses though. Yeah.
I have to say.
I don't know my favorite. It was maybe the Stilton. Nope. Maybe the. I can't. But I'm personally. I'm going to go with the Stilton and the Tubby tonight together for my favorites. What was yours? Yeah.
I think the Tubby is always my go-to, the Alpine style. But I think my favorite tonight was the Sawtooth.
Well, Sawtooth.
I think I was kind of just came out of nowhere, and my favorite part of the Sawtooth was the rind.
The rind. Me too, Rob. We would fight over that rind, right? Yeah, fight over it. George wants to know, hey George, when we might have an in-person. You got George. It is
Good
coming
question.
soon. So Rob, I don't know if everybody knows, Rob does a ton of private tastings like this via Zoom, Teams, virtual tastings for companies, for people that can't yet get together. But you have done a couple intimate in-person ones already because things are opening up.
We've started doing some in-persons. We haven't done them, for the public yet, but for private events, we've done a couple at people's homes as long as we follow all the guidelines and the restrictions. So we've done a few of them like in people's backyards,
exactly,
with masks
outside,
on, and distance and all
exactly.
that. So we can put something together. But as far as something at Venissimo, maybe at Del Mar.
Maybe at Del Mar, because we have our Piazza del Formaggio, the place for cheese up there. And George, everyone on this call and everyone that does participate in this, we're going to host a big party for y'all. In person, the minute we can.
I think what we should do.
You can ask Rob. The minute we can, I want to do.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Right when we know we can, when we schedule it, we should announce it on one of these.
Yes, and it's just going to be a feast.
Yeah.
A cheese feast. Your favorites will be there. We'll open the case. What do you want? We're going to cut it, and you can taste it. So George, the minute we can be in person, we will be in person, and you will be invited.
We have a little sitting area in Del Mar, and there's also other space like in the mall. So if
we'll spill over.
If we spill over a little bit, then so be it. We'll be kind of like Paul Giamatti's wine when he was pouring it. We'll be spilling over.
We'll spill it everywhere. Okay, George has a personal favorite of the Evalon. George, yay! Somebody loved the Evalon.
I'm so glad you said that, George.
Because I was getting sad for Evalon because I nothing against you, Evalon, but you really punched me in the face today.
George likes strong flavors.
We noticed that from the other time, too. We noticed that from the other time. And Carol, you asked about the tattoo. So I do have the yin-yang because I do think that everything has an equal and opposite. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's bad at all. But all it says is fearless. Not fearless, but fearless. I'm a big fan of just have to live. You have to try things. I think we get tied up in worrying too much. And I think we just...
Spontaneous action.
Spontaneous action, I think it is. I think it's like, you know what? Just give it a try and a little less fear and life can be so full and great. So that's what this means.
Do you know the definition of fear?
No, but I know that bees can smell fear.
Oh, yeah?
Because Jerry Maguire or some little kid told me.
The human head weighs 8 pounds or whatever.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fear is simply lack of faith. Nothing to do with religion, but...
No. Just lack of... And yeah, isn't that kind of true? Lack of faith that it'll be okay.
Yeah, it just means if you have faith...
jump off this cliff, have faith I'll be okay.
So you might not be okay, but at least you're not going to be in fear.
Yeah.
Leading up to it.
So it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And Rob, can I tell you, because I play tennis. You guys, I love playing tennis. And sometimes I get in a match. Like if I'm just playing for fun, look out, I'm letting loose. But then it comes to a match. And then I get all nervous, like, and tight, and like, I'm going to mess it up and whatever. And I thought this is my ball throwing hand for the serve. And I thought if I would see this, when I toss, I would say, don't be scared, just hit it. It hasn't worked quite so much. But I keep telling myself that. I try it every time. So it's a multi-level tattoo.
That's pretty brilliant, though.
You do what you can. And Carol has lived. Oh, Donna. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. It's good to hear you, see you, and thank you. It's all good. We're so glad you could join us. We've babbled on and on. Next one, April 7th, 2 weeks from now, Torrontés. It's an Argentinian white grape because we're getting into spring. We're going to try a white, and it's delicious. This one's really fun. It's completely different from this. And we've got a few fun cheeses to share.
We'll have all different cheeses, all new cheeses. We'll go through the whole catalog.
Oh my gosh, thousands. We have thousands of cheeses and hundreds of wines to go through. So we're still good. So we thank you, as always, for joining us. Enjoy. Hope you found some new favorites, new things to do with cheese. We always super appreciate it. And as we say, cheers to cheese. Right?
Cheers to cheese, everybody.
Cheers to cheese. Good night. Sleep tight. And go get your burger. I know that's all you're dreaming of. Like, give me my burger.